Pregame.com.
Vegas Runner here with Brian Leonard to break down primetime marquee matchup Sunday in the NBA. Bulls at Celtics. Both myself and Brian made the true line. Chicago -2, making them a 2-point road favorite in the Garden. This is your pick. Who do you like?
Chicago beat Boston in Boston 88-79 in mid-January.
As a 1-point favorite.
As a 1-point favorite. I think they do so again here. A lot has been said about the Celtics. They won 9 out of the last 10 games. Take a look at these teams that they've played. They played a very weak schedule.
30th in the NBA.
They played 3 legitimate teams, let's say. One was Indiana. If you go back to when they played Indiana, Indiana came into that game expecting to play the Celtics. Right before game time, injuries abound for the Celtics. All their key players are going to be out in this game. And we've seen this how many times in the NBA this year. The team they're playing definitely has a letdown. Boston wins the game with the bench players playing for major minutes. I mean, this is a big proving ground for them. And Indiana comes in and they said, this isn't the big 3, this is the big 1. So they have a letdown. We saw it earlier with Atlanta when they played the Miami Heat. You see it a lot in the NBA, especially this year with all the injuries that have been happening. So I have to discount that victory for Boston. They also played Orlando twice. Orlando is now starting to play better ball, but when they were playing Boston before, they're scoring in the 60s every game. They were really struggling offensively.
They were.
So Boston caught 3 of their games were against teams in either bad situations or let down spots. Everybody else they played, you know, the Washingtons, the New Orleans, the Clevelands.
You should beat those teams.
You should beat those teams. So even though they've won 9 out of 10, they haven't been that impressive. Going into tonight's game, and we're taping this on Thursday, they play Thursday and Friday. They play the Lakers tonight, and they play Toronto tomorrow. You know, they've won, I believe, their last 5 games, but only 2 of those 5 games did they cover. So even though you're winning, they're still not exceeding expectations. Rondo's back. Rondo's playing well. That's why Boston's having success right now. But I think right now this team's a little bit overrated, and so I'll take Chicago. I actually do. At this point, they haven't proven it yet.
Right.
And Chicago has proven it. And Chicago's had injuries just like Boston has all year long. Rose has been in and out of the lineup. But even when Rose is out, for the most part, you get a really good effort. So you know what you're going to get out of them. I think Chicago's the better team. I think Chicago's the best team in the NBA right now.
I agree. Let me play devil's advocate for a second. I love both these teams, and I added them to my undervalued list. And some people are saying, how can the Bulls be undervalued at 22-6? I think the Bulls are who we thought the Heat were going to be coming into the season, meaning they were just going to steamroll over people. They were going to crush bad teams and beat good teams, and the odds makers would not be able to catch up with them. Instead, it's Chicago that's doing that. And as public as this team may be, as much hype as they may be getting, they're smacking the number. It don't matter what number the odds makers put out there. This team's showing up. In other words, when they're playing a bad team and you think you're getting extra value because they're playing a bad team, they're not taking a night off. They're crushing bad teams, and then they're showing up and getting it done against the good teams. That's the reason they're 17-11 against the spread, even though they have the best record in the NBA. And usually a team in that spot would be so overvalued, I'd be looking to fade them. But how can you fade the Bulls when they're out there bringing it each and every night? Now, this is a tough spot for them for one reason. It's their 9th straight road game. They've been on the road a while. This will be 9th game on the road. That's always tough. Even though they're 13-5 on the road, it's tough to ask a team to keep playing on the road and then have a tough game like Boston, who's in a revenge spot. Now, the one thing I'll say about Boston is this. If defense wins championships, and I still believe in the NBA and most sports other than today's NFL, if defense still wins championships, I think you have to go out and put a little future bet on the Boston Celtics. Here's why. Yeah, they have the 30th toughest schedule, which is pretty damn easy. Chicago's 26th, so they've had an easy run of it as well when you look at the record of the teams they played. But you look at Boston. They're number 1 on defense in points allowed, number 1 in field goal percentage allowed, number 1 in three-point field goal percentage allowed. That's huge. If defense wins championships, be careful. This team could be very dangerous later on in the season. I think they're about to turn that corner. I think this was an aging team that came in out of shape and out of sync and kind of got overwhelmed by the schedule early on. But now we're starting to see them turn it around. And I really think this could be a dangerous team. Why I won't go against you in this? Because you're not going to get rich fading Chicago right now. I mean, until I see a letdown, it's not a team I want to try to pick spots when they're not going to cover. Instead, try to pick spots when they are going to cover and cash with, everybody else that's betting them. I've never been that kind of contrarian where I let my ego get in the way and, this team, they got to lose now, Until a team shows me they're about to have a letdown, a stretch, there's no reason to start fading them. And that's why I can't go against you here and take Boston, even though I do think revenge spot against a team that's played 9 straight road games. When you've turned the corner, you got something to prove, a little chip on your shoulder, and now on primetime TV, what better chance to showcase it against the best team in the NBA, or the best team with the best record at least. So I think we're going to get a real motivated Celtics team, but I just can't fade the Bulls, if that makes sense.
You talked about the 9th straight road game for Chicago. This is the circus trip.
Yeah. The famous every year.
It's like San Antonio's got the rodeo trip. Chicago's always done pretty well in these.
Yeah.
And normally, your last game of the circus trip, I would not want any part of Chicago, but they're playing the Boston Celtics.
On TV, baby.
And if you remember how these teams have been the last decade, coming out of the East, it's been the situation. It was Cleveland with Orlando. It was every year, you got to get past Orlando. In Chicago, it was Boston. And so now it's a big game. And not only is it the 9th game on the road, but they've had a good spacing of these games. They've had a day off.
A day off in between,
games.
since they played the Knicks, correct.
That's perfect. The worst thing you want is a tired team on the road that is playing without rest. But
and Boston will be playing their 4th game in 6 days.
They're playing their 3rd game in 4 days. And they got the Lakers Thursday. So it's going to be,
scheduling not much of an advantage.
Scheduling's not going to be much of an advantage. You originally think 9 straight is tough, and it is. But the spacing of those games makes a difference.
I agree. Do you put much stock in their first meeting? I know it was only a handful of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at that. But Chicago was 10-2 when they met. Boston was 4-5, struggling, not even a 500 team. Chicago was a 1-point favorite, went in there, took care of business, won by almost double digits. Do you think this is a different Boston team against that same 10-2 Chicago team at least? Are you giving that?
I'm not sure either one is the same team at this point because they've had so many injuries all year long.
Gotcha.
And if I remember correctly, in that first matchup, Chicago came out to a big lead, and then Boston fought all the way back, because I had Chicago in the game. Boston fought all the way back, and then it got to about the crunch time in the 4th quarter, and then Chicago started pulling away again. That tells me 2 things. It tells me, number one, that Chicago came out with a purpose, and as you talked about, when they play bad teams, they're getting up by 20 in the first half on these bad teams. But they were able to rebound and come back again late in the game, and to me, that's very important.
I think the one key is rebounding. Chicago's dominating the boards. On offense, they're, number 1 in offensive rebounds. So they're getting 2nd looks, 3rd looks. They're number 2 in defensive rebounds. To me, that's about hustle. It's not about size. Because all these NBA teams are big. Obviously, some teams have a bigger, lineup than the other. But there's not too many, 6'2" centers in the NBA. They're all big teams, all big guys. I think when it comes down to rebound, it's coaching, technique, coupled with drive. You got to hustle to get rebounds. And Chicago's playing with so much tenacity, it seems. They're hustling after the ball, even against bad teams. That's why they're doing so well on the boards. In their first meeting with Boston, they out-rebounded them by 13 on the road. And Boston's relatively a good rebounding team, 7th defensively, not good offensively. They only get one shot and that's it, which kind of lends to what I was saying. They're been more of a lazy team. You know, they're older. They haven't had that hustle in them. That's why they're 29th in offensive rebounds. I think it's effort. And why I'm bringing this up is I think if you start seeing Boston turn the corner and you start looking through box scores, which I know you do and I do each and every day, you start seeing them winning the battle of the boards, that's going to be a big sign that this team's hustling now. And I think that's when you got to start looking for spots to start back in Boston. Because I do think this is a quality team. I do think they're turning the corner. And they can be dangerous in the East with the pieces they have. As old as, you know, Garnett, Pierce, Allen may be, this core has been together a while. You know, they still have some business to take care of. And they're still able to get it done from what I've seen. Because of that, I think there will be spots coming up where Boston's going to offer value. This will be a telling game for me. Tonight against the Lakers and this one against the Bulls. These are two games you have to win if you're for real. A, you got to beat the Lakers tonight. And B, you got to get revenge on the Bulls. If they could do that, then I think Boston's turned the corner and we could find some value. But I can't fade you, Brian. No pizza on this one.
All right.
So he likes the Bulls. I'm not going to mess with it just yet. He made the line 2. I made the line 2 as well. Hopefully it comes out lower than that. You could piggyback Brian to the winner's circle. Don't forget, pregamevideos.com. All the videos there. Thread where the cappers go in. You guys that watch the videos could go in, comment, start a discussion. It's going to do it for this week's videos. 3 games, 3 winners. Have a good weekend. Do some damage. We'll be back next week.